Okay, you are live.
Great. Welcome to the July 20th meeting of the Downtown Development Authority Project and Infrastructure Subcommittee. At this time, I'd like Adam to take the roll call, please.
I can do that.
All right, Heather, thank you.
Yep. Peter Dewan.
Present.
James Crew.
Here.
George Lahanas.
Here.
Mayor Stevens.
Here.
Greg Ballline.
Here.
Joe Felposh. Mike Kruger.
Here.
And Tom Yaden. Okay.
Great. We have the agenda, a very full agenda, I might add, that's been presented by staff. I will make a motion to approve the agenda as presented and ask for a second. It's been, I can't see anyone. Is someone offering a second on the agenda?
Mayor Stevens, second.
Mayor Stevens seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Seeing none, the agenda has been approved as presented. We, at the request of Mayor Stevens at a previous meeting, we extended the Heather, are we still good to go?
Sorry, I touched that on accident. That was me.
Oh,
My bad. Sorry. I don't know what I did.
We are at item 1.3 on our agenda. At a previous meeting, Mayor Stevens recommended that we extend the time frame to 5 minutes to allow the public to have adequate time to address items on our agenda, which we approved. We will offer a motion this morning to continue that tradition of offering 5 minutes, and I ask for a second on that motion.
Second, Greg Ballline.
Seconded by Greg Ballline. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, our time limit will be 5 minutes for public comments. With that, we will open it up for communications from the audience. And I don't know if there's anyone in the queue that we can call in chronological order to address the P&I if they wish.
There's no one in the queue.
Adam, are you able to see if there's any attendees?
I am.
Okay.
No attendees.
Yep. Okay. Yep. I just verified. Yep. Okay. It wasn't showing up. Sorry.
Okay. We will then close off the public comment section of our meeting and move on to any written communications. I don't see any. Seeing no written communications, we'll move on to item 4 on our agenda, which is 1234 East Grand River SUP site plan for the marijuana use. And who's going to lead that discussion? Is it you, Heather?
David Haywood is actually going to lead that.
Okay, welcome, David.
Thank you. Just give me a second to get my volume up here. Okay. Okay, so this is a proposal to establish a marijuana retail facility at the property. The applicant was granted a special use permit in March of 2019 for a medical provisioning center, and then modified that approval in February of this year. They did reconfigure their floor area and did some exterior amendments as well. Basically what they did was they were proposing to only use the first and second floor of the building, and are now proposing to use all 3 floors with a portion of the second floor removed to create a vaulted ceiling and that kind of thing. Some of the changes to the site plan, I'm not sure if the P&I committee looked at this before their prior approvals, but there were some minor changes to the site that I want to touch on real quickly. They moved the walkway from Grand River to the rear of the site to the west side of the building. made some minor changes to the front exit and also to the rear exit to address ADA concerns, and also widened the driveway to the required width. They did make some changes to the exterior of the building. The ground level windows have been removed for security purposes. They also reduced the window, the remaining windows reduced their height. They removed the balconies. And they added metal cladding in building recesses. The previously approved facade decorative element was removed and replaced with a metal feature. And the exterior brick is proposed to be painted gray and green to match the Encana brand colors. This originally was a residential building. It's of course being converted completely to a commercial use. The Planning Commission acted on this on July 8th with a motion to support the proposal on a vote 7-1, and it's set for a council public hearing on August 11th. With that, I would take any questions.
Can you go over, David, a little bit about how has the configuration of the interior of the building been changed, and how do different patrons utilize the space? Is it all now just one facility for both medical use and recreational use, or are there separate areas of the building that are for different consumers?
Right, Heather, if you scroll up that floor plan that you had up there before, a good one. Right there, we'll back down one. Right there. So, oh no, actually that is an older one. At any rate, I think what you see here that see the floor, I just changed it. I'll wait for her to catch up. Yeah, if you scroll down, you'll find the proposed. There we go. So what you see here is the proposed floor plan layout, and I believe the first floor is all the way to the right, the second floor is in the middle, and the third floor is there on the left. What's really changed is the second and third floor dramatically. As you can see in that middle floor plan there, the second floor, they've taken out a portion of the floor, so it creates a vaulted ceiling from the first floor up to the third floor ceiling, and it creates quite an open environment in there. And then on the third floor, they just really use that for their stocking and the fulfillment of orders. The first floor, they do have their product separated within their display cabinetry, but it is the same floor area, and they screen customers as they come in. You know, are you here for medical purposes, or are you here for recreational purposes? And from there, then they know which product to sell to which customer. So they would match them up from that perspective. Still functions the same in terms of they vet their customers. You have to be over 21 to enter or have a medical card. So I don't know if that.
Okay. Am I correct, David? The hours of use are from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m.?
I believe that's correct.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
Are there questions of Mr. Haywood from committee members? So the Planning Commission won't review this again, is that correct?
That's correct.
And so our action at our DDA meeting on Thursday will be to refer to the city council. Is that also correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Well, I don't have any objections recommending approval. I don't know if there's other opinions of committee members or what the intent of the P&I committee would be. Does anyone wish to speak to that item?
It just goes to DDA for real approval. Are we just looking at it, or do we need any action from us?
Yeah, it goes to the DDA on Thursday for final approval.
Great.
Okay,
Any questions?
well, then we'll address that on Thursday if there's no other questions for Mr. Haywood. Seeing none, let's move on to item 5. Mr. Haywood, is that also you as well?
Yep.
MSUFCU Site Plan?
Yep.
Okay,
All right, so this is a proposal from the Michigan State Federal Credit Union. They are proposing a 7-story office building, topping out at just under 105 feet with just under 88,000 square feet of floor area. The building is situated on the northwest corner of Abbott and Albert, and provides space for the credit union branch on the first floor and a small area for tenant space on the first floor. The second floor of the building is proposed to be a community space, open both for MSUFCU and general public to rent and use for community events. And the floors 3 through 7 are reserved for both MSUFCU office space as well as leasable tenant space. The property is owned B3, Center City Commercial. The total site area is 0.3 acres. It was the former parking lot for city parking lot and a portion of Albert Avenue. The main lobby entrance is at the southeast corner of the building, and delivery and service at the rear of the building at the alley. Building hours of operation are Monday through Saturday, 6 a.m. to 11:59 p.m., closed on Sundays. Building facades primarily brick, brick masonry, green spandrel glass, and aluminum curtain wall system. The applicant did provide a traffic impact statement, and they expect to generate approximately 100 trips in the peak AM hour and 93 trips in the PM peak hour. They do plan on managing their parking demand through 3 different city garages, municipal garage system to handle their parking, where 85% of those would land in the Center City garage, 10% in the Grove Street garage, and 5% at the MAC garage. Sidewalks provided along Abbott and Albert. The proposed building is consistent with our master plan for the M4 category, which is analogous to the B3 district and fits within the overall height limitations there. There is one issue that we've discovered on our preliminary evaluation of the project, and that has to do with the height of the building adjacent to the alley. I'll try to explain this the most concise way I can. It gets a little complicated, but in our B3 district, it's basically like a neighborhood manners type issue, where if you have an adjacent residential zoning, the building can only reach a certain height, which is the base height of the district. And then after that, it has to be set back away from that residential property. So the base height for the B3 district is 64 feet. there's approximately 40 feet above that. So the building after 64 feet would have to be set back 40 feet from the property line of the adjacent residential property. So given the alley width being 21 feet, the building would have to be set back from the edge of its own building would have to be set back about just under 19 feet. So we've made this aware, we've made the applicant aware of this, and there are a variety of ways that we could deal with this. Obviously, it's a public process for any one of these. That includes a variance. They could apply for a variance to get permission to build it as they're proposing it. And then other options are to rezone the property. This is the Evergreen properties. To rezone those, or potentially even a code amendment. I think the applicant is most interested in attempting a variance at this point. So with that, the Planning Commission is scheduled to hold a public hearing on this issue next Wednesday, the 22nd. And I would take any questions at this point.
So I have a question, David. That setback, is it only applicable on the western portion of the building? Or would it, it wouldn't impact the northern portion?
Correct. It is only affects the side facing the alley facing west.
Okay, and so where is the 60-foot mark on the building as far as what floor level? And if a variance is not approved, you're saying it would have to jut in about 19, 20 feet. Is that correct?
That's correct. So let me pull up
So this is along the DDA property line across the
Yes.
alley?
yeah.
Yes.
So the break point would be right about at the floor of level 5.
Okay. And what is this? What will the setback be from the alley?
As required by this setback requirement, or what they're proposing right now?
By the setback requirement.
Just under 20 feet.
Okay. All right. Are there questions? Jim, did you have a follow-up?
Yeah, I'd be interested in staff's view of what the purpose for the setback is. I think I might understand it if it's adjacent to a residential area. You wouldn't have this sort of tunnel effect, but here we would foresee possibly another commercial building, another taller building across the alley. Is that a correct statement? And are there problems with that from staff's perspective, not having the setback?
Well, I'll hand a couple of questions in there. I'll take the first one. So the purpose for that, like I mentioned, it's almost like a neighborhood manners type perspective. I think you're hitting on that. When you have a very tall building and let's say you're the residential use and you're out in your yard or in your window and you look up at the building, if it's set back the same distance as it is high, then you have roughly like a 45-degree angle there that you'd have to be way back in your property to see the top of the building. So the overall height you wouldn't see that, or you wouldn't feel it as much, or it would be very limited impact on the adjacent property at that point. So from the neighbor's perspective, it would only seem like a 64-foot building as opposed to 104, 105 here. So that's the purpose, is to try to soften the impact of large buildings on residential neighborhoods. So that's the purpose. And so I think the applicant is pursuing a variance because we understand the history of the site has been, it's been proposed many times to be commercial with a mixed-use building at very similar to the size of this building at least. So I think there are arguments to be made that knowing the future intent for this adjacent property to be redeveloped, that you might not see, it might not be as have a detrimental effect to the neighboring property. And likely we would need to see some support or some acknowledgement from the owner of that property, of course, the DDA, to support that. That would certainly help their argument at the Zoning Board of Appeals public hearing.
So would any variance be for would that variance apply only to the credit union property, or would it also apply to the DDA property? If there were, the reason I ask, if there were an eventual developer of the DDA property and they wanted a similar variance now, could the credit union come in and object to that because now they've got windows facing west?
So
thereby diminishing the value of the DDA property for the uses?
Right. So that variance is only applicable to or that standard for that setback is only applicable to buildings where, so the actual requirement for that setback is relative to buildings that require a special use permit because you're asking to go higher than the base allotment. So I don't know, I'd have to do some digging to see if that same issue would apply in whatever, because we don't know what ultimate zoning district the B3 is going to end up being, or the Evergreen properties is going to end up being. So I'm not sure if that would ever apply to that property or not. But certainly it does on this property. Right now, it is only applicable to the property in question, the MSUFCU property.
I think the question, David, if I can jump in here, is does the variance request adversely impact what could be proposed on the DDA site?
Well, we know, that's really kind of up to, I guess the DDA, and that's kind of what I mentioned earlier, that the applicant going into the Zoning Board of Appeals would be in a much better position if they know that the owner of the property, of the Evergreen properties, was in support of that proposal.
Yeah, I think, thank you for that, David. I think Tom Fehrenbach wanted to jump in.
Yeah, so thank you, Chair. Just to clarify, I think that the question is, will the request by MSUFCU somehow hamper the DDA's ability on the Evergreen properties? The answer would be no. It's really only a one-way issue because the DDA properties are currently zoned residential. The MSUFCU properties are zoned commercial. And that's the reason that this issue exists, because the commercial property is adjacent to the residentially zoned property.
So any DDA property redevelopment would engender a zoning change request anyway?
Yeah,
that's correct.
Yeah, once the Evergreen properties are rezoned to something other than a commercial zoning district or a B district, a non-residential district, then this whole issue goes away.
Okay.
Thanks.
Fair enough. Additional questions about the site plan? Can you?
I had a
yes,
question.
Michael. Go ahead, Michael.
I was just curious, David, I was just curious if MSU had any idea how much space they were actually going to have for lease of other companies for their office space, or if they are anticipating on using the majority of majority of it for themselves?
Well, I think they're still working on that, and that probably has a lot to do with the tenants that they provide, and as they continue to build out and plan for this project. So I don't know that we have, and I looked for that before this meeting, anticipating the question. And I don't know if we have hard numbers on their exact square footage of use of the building at this point, other than we know that they'll have a branch office on the first floor, and that'll take up the majority of the first floor, and then, of course, the second floor is reserved for community space, and then after that, I think it's a function of where the dust settles in terms of their organization and what they can commit to long term. That may change long term too, as that branch does well, as they anticipate. I think more of the building will transition to their own offices. It sounds though like they'll always have a tenant, or at least a tenant space in the building now.
David,
Yeah, okay.
I have two questions. One is with regard to the second floor, the community space. Is that committed space for the community, or is it under some lease arrangement?
Yeah, so it would be, the whole building would be owned by MSUFCU, so it would be open for public use, so the community could rent the space as.
There would be it's not dedicated just for community events. There would be some type of rental component to that.
That's my understanding.
Okay, and what is the footprint, square footage of the floors?
Of each floor. I have to get my calculator out. Hang on 1 second. Roughly 12,500 square feet.
Okay. So about an 84,000 square foot building, roughly?
Yeah, 87, just under 88.
Okay.
And that floor, the lot's going to be taken out by, you're probably looking at more like, for the community space floor, you're probably looking at more like 8 to 9,000 square feet, somewhere in that area. Take out the hallways, the bathrooms, the stairwells, all the back of house, that kind of thing.
Are you aware if MSU Federal Credit Union has a list of potential tenants?
I'm not aware of any tenants that they have on the line at this point.
Okay. Are there additional questions for Mr. Haywood? I think it's going to be a very attractive building, clearly. They all are that the MSU Federal Credit Union produces, so it'll be a nice addition to the downtown. If there's no other questions, let's move on to item 6 on our agenda, which is the SUP for the fitness center at 300 West Grand River. Is that you as well, Mr. Haywood?
Yep. Okay. But keep it chugging along here. So this is a proposed fitness center on the first floor of 300 West Grand River. This is from DTN. And they're proposing a fitness center for the residents of Gateway, which is the residences above that building, above that commercial space, as well as other DTN managed properties that are not connected with this building. So there's about 6,400 square feet of non-residential space on the ground floor, and that currently includes a Big B coffee shop, a little over 400 square feet of office space, and then above there are 39 two-bedroom apartments. So the Big B coffee shop occupies just over 2,000 square feet, and the rest is approximately 2,400 square feet of vacant retail space. The fitness center would occupy just over 1,500 square feet. So, so really, that's the long and short of it, I guess. Their proposed hours of operation would fall between 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. The Planning Commission approved this unanimously in the latter part of June, and it is currently scheduled for a public hearing in front of City Council on August 11th. With that, I would take any questions.
Just to clarify, I think you already stated it, but this is just for the use of residents of that location. Is that correct?
It's for the use of residents at that building and also, I believe, multiple other DTN managed properties that are not part of this building. They're also proposing to open it up for instructional fitness like yoga, that kind of thing for a fee, and that would be open to the general public.
Okay.
So that's why this is proposed to be a new special use permit separate from the special use permit that governs the whole building, the whole mixed use development.
I see. I think Michael had a question.
David, do they have any parking available for that?
Yep. So the proposed use fits right into the parking on site. It doesn't require additional parking.
Okay.
Any additional questions for Mr. Haywood? Okay. Let's move on to item 7, 100 West Grand River SDM license. Is that you as well, Mr. Haywood?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, if I may, I think that that item was placed on the agenda at one point as a placeholder, and it's been determined that there's actually enough time in the process for the DDA to review it at your next meeting, and to have enough time to provide guidance to the council. So it was just removed from the final agenda that's posted to the web now.
Okay.
So actually, item 7 is announcements.
All right. Any board member announcements, comments, committee members, anyone wishing to make a comment? All right. Everyone's relatively quiet this morning. Seeing no other business before us, I'll move to adjourn and ask for a second. It's been seconded by Michael. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.